YouTube viewers, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a show by the people, for the people, and you, my friends, are my people. So join in our rapidly growing community. That's the way we like it. In today's episode, which superstar athlete got an arguably regrettable tattoo? And the governor of Maine openly defying Donald Trump to his face on his trans ban. We'll talk about that later in the program and a lot of other things, but we'll begin over at MSNBC, where they're making a shakeup to their programming lineup. Joy Reid is out. That's right, I said it. Joy Reid is out. I just left a little pause for the cheer that I imagined in my mind coming from many of you. The race-baiting MSNBC host, arguably for me, maybe the most contemptible of the left-wing show hosts. I know that's a tough battle to win with a lot of the folks that we have over at MSNBC alone, actually. But Joy Reid has been relieved of her duties as host of the Readout on MSNBC. And what can you say here? I'm looking here. I'm wanting to see Ronnie T-shirts. I assume that he's smiling. He'll be joining us in a little bit, and we'll get his thoughts on this. But I thought on this momentous occasion, this moment where we have lost one of America's most astute political, cultural observers, sadly has lost her spot on television, for now, at least. I don't even want to worry about her resurfacing yet. I thought you guys might enjoy taking a look at a little supercut of some of Joy Reid's greatest hits. Let's go to the tape.
Mayonnaise sandwich on Wonder Bread, right? From a border state, he could have made a strong argument for her.
In America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right?
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swift, she had the Swifties, she had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And I think that's still true. We begin our final sprint, having arrived at that point in the election season where basically we on this side of the TV screen have said all we can. We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy, but also white-ruled South Africa before Mandela and the black majority took control, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, Viktor Orban's Hungary, or Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela today.
Welcome back. We're going to cut out of this. Welcome back to the white mayonnaise sandwich show here with Ricky Cobb. I'm crying my white male tears, salty tears of joy, white male tears running down my cheeks. I voted for a fascist. I think the most offensive thing out of all of that, and she's dropping racist stuff there. She's comparing Donald Trump baselessly to some of the worst mass murderers in history. But the thing that offended me the most, my friends, is that she suggested that Kamala Harris ran a flawless campaign. Don't insult my intelligence like that. What are we talking about? She had Queen Latifah never endorses anybody. That's the standard. That's how you know that you've crushed it in a presidential campaign, is when you get the coveted Queen Latifah endorsement. She had the Beehive, she had the Swifties, she had the Beliebers, she had Arnie's Army, she had everybody. She didn't have a fucking clue, and neither did you, Joy Reid, and now you're gone, and thank God you are. Because you said dumb shit like this. Take a look at this tweet. I think that we should remember this on this blessed occasion. as well. Joy Reid, after the assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, says, I have many questions. And look, there's her cute little hand raised emoji. Like, where are the medical reports? What caused Trump's injury and what was the injury? I don't know, Joy. Might it have been the bullet whizzing by his head? Do you think that might have been what did it? The same bullet that killed a father and a first responder who was in the crowd? Do you think maybe it was that? Shrapnel, glass, a bullet? Where were the 3 attendees who were shot seated or standing relative to Trump? Why was he allowed to stand and pose for photos, fist pumping for nearly 10 seconds while asking about his shoe when there could have easily been additional shooters? How did the gunman manage to get on the roof of the building? Well, look, I'll agree with that question. How the gunman managed to get up there on the building is one that we were all asking. I'll permit her that one. But suggesting how about a far left conspiracy theory that we saw circulating after the assassination attempt of Donald Trump? People suggesting that it wasn't real. People like Joy Reid contributing to that. A lot of people are saying ding dong, the witch is dead today. Riley Gaines among them. OutKick's own Riley Gaines tweeting, MSNBC canceling Joy Reid's show. Turns out being a professional race baiter isn't favorable among viewers and ratings. And Joy Reid is one of the all-time race baiters, it's true. And I have never been one as a white guy in this country to cry foul about racism very much as far as it is directed to white people, at least on a societal, cultural level. Individual cases of racism are always bad, but when somebody says, mayonnaise sandwich, that doesn't exactly hit like the racial epithets that have been thrown around towards black people and other more marginalized groups in our society. And so I recognize that. You call me, not that anybody has ever called me this, but if somebody called me a cracker or if somebody called me a honky, it just doesn't hit. It hits like a Nerf ball compared to a lot of the terms that have been used towards other minority groups, because a lot of those terms, they also came as the point of a bayonet of a lot of racism institutionally, slavery, Jim Crow segregation, on down the line, right? Internment camps during World War II and so forth. The history of racism in this country is real and it's disgraceful, as I've said many times, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. 2 wrongs don't make a right. My daughter recently, my oldest, she's on Ancestry.com, and she was telling me she had traced our family tree back to the 1700s, which was of great interest to me because I don't know anything about where my family's from. Turns out, apparently, I'm mostly Scottish. So I don't know. I might be in the market for a kilt. I might go on Temu later. But my daughter is showing me, I actually saw for the first time a picture of my great-grandfather as a young man, my great-great-grandfather, and a picture of my great-great-great-grandfather, who is probably proud of the beard that I sport, because if you saw him, you know that I'm the apparently the successor to that legacy. It skipped about 5 generations, or ever how many generations you're going back to your great-great-great-grandfather. Now, I have no reason to believe that any of my grandfathers were slave owners, but if one of them happened to be, as far back as you go, 200, 300 years, I don't think that I bear any accountability for that. I didn't have anything to do with it. I don't even know that motherfucker's name. As I'm sitting here talking to you right now, I can't remember the name of my great-great-great-grandfather. And I just saw him for the first time, a picture of him at age 53. Okay? I ain't got nothing to do with that. Just like I wouldn't expect one of my relatives, let's flash forward to the year, 2150, or let's go ahead 150 years. Let's go to 2175. Do you think that my great-great-great whatever the fuck he is at that point, grandson, should have to answer for whatever dumb shit I do today? 2 wrongs don't make a right. And so to sit here and say things like mayonnaise sandwich, whatever, while I'm not taking that as a dagger, that's fucking racist. And there's no room for it in our society, and it doesn't improve things. It stokes division, and it doesn't bring us together. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed of a post-racial society in which people were just judged on who they were as people, their character, and the way that they behave. And I think that's the goal that we should all be after. And to say this stuff, no matter who's saying it to who, it's not right. She did it for far too long, and she deserves her unemployment. Elon Musk has been tasked by Donald Trump to get more aggressive. Take a look at this. We saw Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, hand Elon Musk a chainsaw at CPAC last week, and Elon was taking a lot of pride in waving it around and having fun with it. Donald Trump said, take that chainsaw and go to work with it. The president tweeting from his Truth Social account, and this is, I guess, the Twitter account that reposts his Truth Social account because he's sticking with truth. Elon is doing a great job, but I'd like to see him get more aggressive. Remember, we have a country to save, but ultimately to make greater than ever before, MAGA. And Elon Musk essentially saying, yes, Mr. President, and going to work on carrying that out. Take a look at this. A lot of people have their panties in a bunch over this one. Elon Musk tweeting, consistent with President Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, about 90+% of us who have ever had a job in any situation can feel the sweat popping out on some people's foreheads, thinking, what in the world am I going to tell people? Now, Elon says 5 bullet points. What's the problem? If you can't name 5 things that you did at work last week, what are you really doing? Is the question. And he basically said, we're just looking for people to reply. He went on. I saw another tweet where Elon followed up and essentially said, look, we just want to see who replies because we think there are people out there that are just collecting paychecks who literally aren't doing anything, might not even be coming to work. So again, the chainsaw, the DOGE bulldozer is making its way through the federal government. Not everybody loves this. The newly minted FBI Director Kash Patel instructed FBI employees to pause any responses to this. State Department employees were also instructed not to respond. So we're going to see how this plays out, but certainly the DOGE mission continues. And if anything, it seems to be ramping up simultaneously while we've got a lot of people who are very, very upset that it's even going at the speed that it was going at before Donald Trump said to Elon, hey, put the pedal to the metal and let's see some real shit. Speaking of seeing some real shit, that seems like a good opportunity now for me to welcome to the program the international streaming star who joins me from Chicago, Illinois. He is, of course, Ronnie T-shirts. And Ronnie, how are things going here? You're still in my town, motherfucker.
Just love being an urban guy, man. Walking around the city, seeing the sights, finding restaurants that I want to go eat at.
You're going to be looking at real estate in no time, Ron. Coming up here.
I think if I ever lived in Chicago, I think I would be a renter. I've heard some horror stories about how much property taxes are here, so I might be a renter if I lived in Chicago.
Ron, what do you think here? Let's start with Joy Reid. You and I have talked about Joy Reid on this program. I saw Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire tweeting, saying that, he was sorry for everybody in his profession because Joy Reid has been a blessing of content for us. And she has certainly given us some stuff to talk about over the 6 months that we've been doing this show, Ronnie, but she's gone. I've talked a lot about the pendulum swinging culturally, and it's swung to the degree that Donald Trump is in office now. He's been in office for what, just a month, basically, slightly over a month, and Joy Reid's gone.
Wouldn't logic dictate that if there were so many people that still supported the things that she was saying, because sometimes that's what we're led to believe when we look at small samples like something on X, that she'd still have a job and she'd still be getting ratings. So I think it's just you know what I always say, right, Ricky? The market always speaks. And there clearly isn't a consumer group for what she spews anymore, because if there was, they'd be getting ratings and they'd be able to sell advertising and she would have a job for life. So clearly her rhetoric doesn't resonate with people anymore. I do think it's interesting, though, that I literally only see her when you bring it up, or I see it on X. Like, I just don't know who consumes her. I guess nobody consumes her, right? That's why she's getting fired.
Well, the ratings are down over there. But it's a good point that you make. I mean, look, Donald Trump won the election. He calls it a landslide. It wasn't a landslide. No. All right. Now, it may be a consequences landslide that we're seeing happening. I mean, we're seeing a consequences landslide. I would say that with everything that Trump has done, that's certainly the most efficient month of presidenting that I've seen in my lifetime. His first month in terms of the footprint that he's already making. So I think from that standpoint, it feels like a landslide. But Trump won the election by, a few percentage points in enough places to win. I don't know what the final margin was in the election. Was it like 1.5%, 2% nationally?
California is still counting votes.
Yeah, they're still trying to narrow the gap out there. Ron, you're talking about an election that was quite close. It was, essentially, I know with third-party candidates, I think Trump was a little short of 50%, but this was kind of like a 51-49 election, really. He did end up running the table on the battleground states, but think about it. If she had won, and it's, not that unthinkable. She was polling ahead of him at various times. It was, I know you and I were both privately, we were concerned. This didn't look like it was any kind of a foregone conclusion, even going into election day. If you've ever seen the cut of MSNBC that night, where they were all pretty confident going into that night, where we saw Joy talking about, she had a flawless campaign. That's her rationalizing why she can't believe that Kamala was losing. If Kamala wins, not only do the things that Donald Trump has set in motion, not only do they not happen, the other stuff probably gains momentum, because
Absolutely.
There's a perception that the country just rubber stamped all the cancel culture, all the restrictions on quote unquote hate speech, misinformation, etc. Joy Reid is solidified in her position on MSNBC. If anything, she's got the wind at her sails. And so elections have consequences. And those consequences, it's just a nice reminder. They go beyond politics themselves, especially in the climate that we have in this country today. The consequences are cultural as well. And it seems that the cultural restructuring that we're seeing take place in the United States right now does not include Joy Reid's race baiting. Ronnie, does the future of the Dallas Cowboys include Jerry Jones? I want you to take a look at this. Cowboys fans, at least a segment of them, have about had it. Take a look. You can buy Fire Jerry merchandise. Get your Fire Jerry trucker hat. Wear that around proudly. Unfortunately, of course, you can't fire the owner of the team. Jerry is the king, and he will stay in his kingdom as long as he feels like it. But what do you think of the energy of the people who have had enough, and they would prefer to see Jerry Jones sell the Dallas Cowboys?
I was going to say, do we have a response from Jerry on how he feels about people producing merchandise like that?
As the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, I cannot be fired, and I will have my attorneys contact you directly for the star that you had on that cap, which I believe is a violation of Dallas Cowboys intellectual property. Sunshine, glory holes.
All right, that's it for today. We're going to this Jerry Jones well pretty often, you know.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry hadn't pulled a Brian Bosworth here. You remember Brian Bosworth made the T-shirts, the anti-Brian Bosworth T-shirts, and he sold them outside of Mile High Stadium back in the day. I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah, entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Maybe
no such
maybe
thing as bad publicity.
Jerry's making
There's no
money.
such thing
Jerry's
as
making
bad
money
publicity.
off this. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Is it offensive? You know, maybe it's offensive to the Jones family, but I can tell you who doesn't care who he offends, Ronnie, and that's Tom Homan, the border czar.
Does not care.
Let's take a look here. Tom Homan, who's just laying it down for everybody and has 0 fucks to give. He just checked his bag of fucks. It appears to be empty.
Let me start out by saying this. If I offend anybody today, I don't give a shit. Don't care. The media in the back room, I'm sure I'll be reading a lot of hit pieces on me tomorrow. I don't give a shit what you think about me. I get asked all the time, does it bother you? There's a big part of this country that hates your guts. I don't care. I don't care. Because we got a job to do. You know, I wake up every day for the last 4 years pissed off because the Biden administration took the most secure border in my lifetime and unsecured it on purpose. Right? I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I ever worked for took steps to secure the border. Even Clinton and Obama took steps to secure the border because they clearly understood you can't have national security without border security. They got it. Joe Biden's the first president in history of the nation who came into office and unsecured the border.
Tom Homan doesn't care. He reminds me of Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, where he's just like, I don't care. He doesn't care. And he said, I've worked with 6 presidents, including Democrats. Everybody understood the importance of a secure border, with the exception of Joe Biden, who clearly did it on purpose, and clearly it was being done for political gain, Ron. I don't think there's any other conclusion that you can draw.
That's the most concerning thing, is the on purpose part. You know, sometimes people make decisions or implement policies and they just don't work out. And you're like, man, that was really dumb. I can't believe you did it. But you were trying something and it just didn't work out. This was on purpose. And that's the most concerning thing. And the fact that the people that you know do support Biden and support that side, the fact that they're not bothered by the fact that it was on purpose and they just opened it up and said, everybody come in. We don't care about your background. We don't care about your intentions.
Flying people in, Ron. Flying people in. The people that weren't just pouring through the open door at the southern border. It's honestly they were evil. Flying people in from other places.
It's honestly evil to do that to the American public. It's not evil to bring people in. It's evil to bring people in that are not vetted and you know nothing about them. That's what's evil.
And to bring them in a cynical attempt to reshape the electorate.
Correct.
Because we heard Chuck Schumer. We played a tape some time ago on the show where he's talking about, and these illegal immigrants, they should have a path to vote, you know, and whatever. And it's like, well, hey, wait a fucking minute. Why are you so eager to have them to vote? Like, you don't have to be Lieutenant Columbo to piece that together. You're going to let all these people pour in. You're going to try to streamline a process to let them vote. And who are they going to vote for? They're going to vote for the kind, empathetic, great souls who helped them by letting them come into this land of opportunity. It was a cynical attempt to reshape the electorate, because all you have to do is go back and look at any number of the video footage that we've played on this show of Barack Obama or Chuck Schumer or Hillary Clinton or many others talking with common sense about the importance of having a secure border, until apparently they decided all at the same time, in lockstep, everybody suddenly decided that it wasn't important anymore. You tell me, Ron. I'll tell you what's important. It's a nutritious lunch, especially when you're a child, Ronnie. Lunch is, they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but my mom was always careful to try to pack things for me for lunch that would get my growing little body through the day. And back when we were growing up, Ron, the lunchbox was a goddamn American art form. And take a look at this one. The kid who took this sweet bastard to school every day was probably disgusted by everybody else's pussy lunchboxes. He probably felt bad that he had to sit at the same table with somebody who had a fucking Holly Hobby lunchbox or whatever. I don't know what the girls had back in those days, but for boys it was sports and superheroes and cartoon characters. Did you have a lunchbox back in the day, Ron? You remember any that you used to carry?
Yeah, I had a Pele when he played for the Cosmos.
Oh, that's right. You've told me that. I had the NFL helmets. I had a Disney one in first grade. It was a school bus. It was kind of rounded at the top, and it was Disney characters in a yellow school bus. Good shit. Bryce Harper got a tattoo on his arm of the Philly Fanatic. And there it is. Is it finished?
I mean,
Is
I
my
hope
first question.
He's got to make it green, right?
You got to color that in. It looks like that picture was taken halfway through it. And he's got it on his arm, bro. Like, that's his wrist? That's on his forearm? It appears. Like low on his forearm is what I'm getting from the bone structure that I'm observing there. That's an interesting choice. I'm not sure I would have done that.
All right, so
Ron,
if you're
what
gonna
do you
get
give
a
that
mascot,
tattoo on a scale of 1 to? What do you give it on a scale of 1 to 10, Ron?
I mean,
Bryce Harper's new tattoo.
it's unique. I like it. I mean, I want to see it colored in.
I'm not against it. I mean, I have a couple of tattoos, but I don't think I want the.
If you were going to get a
Fanatic
mascot
on my
tattoo,
forearm.
what would you get? If you were going to get a mascot tattoo, what would you get?
Boy, that's a good question. Maybe Youppi
The
from the
Montreal.
Expos.
Yeah, you would just do
Yeah,
that. So you
maybe.
put the logo on his hat.
Yeah, I might have to go with Youppi, but I'm not going to get any mascot tattoos, I don't think, anytime soon, Ron. I welcome to the program Maine State Representative Laurel Libby. Laurel, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Well, Laurel, thank you for coming on the program. You find yourself in the middle of all of this. I became aware of this a couple of days ago on Facebook, actually. I was reading through and I saw your Facebook post that had over, I guess, in excess of 100,000 reactions and a lot of controversy. What's it been like for you sort of stepping into these hot waters? A lot of people are really giving you criticism right now.
Yeah, I've got thick skin. It's been pretty crazy, but there has been an outpouring of support from Mainers who don't agree with Governor Mills. She is an outlier here. Mainers have common sense, and we don't want to see boys participating in girls' sports. So we're so thankful that President Trump has stepped up and is going to be taking action, because that's the only way that we'll see remedy here in Maine for these girls who are having to compete against boys so unfairly.
Well, here is your tweet, and I know that there are those who have wanted you to take this tweet down. You have steadfastly refused to do that. You tweeting another day, another instance of an unremarkable biological male competing against women and winning. You can see here, this is, I suppose she goes by the name Katie Spencer now, previously known as John Spencer. you tweeted, John won the girls pole vaulting state championship in Maine after the state deliberately ignored current federal rules and allowed him to compete. First of all, Laurel, what are the rules in Maine? What rules are in place in Maine that are supposed to govern and dictate how biological males are eligible to compete against females, at least predating the executive order? How did Maine handle this historically?
Well, the rules are incredibly broad. So the Maine Principals Association put out a policy last year, and in a nutshell, it says, if a athlete declares that they are a gender other than their biological gender, then that's that. No questioning, no testing, no nothing. They declare it, it is so. So in this case, John participated in the pole vault as a boy right through June of last year. And yes, took 5th place in a regional event last February and then 10th in states. And now is participating 8 months later as a girl and just won the state championship, displacing the biological actual females who had worked so hard and were deserving of that championship.
Wow. So you're telling me that the rule that was in place was basically someone just had to declare themselves as female, and there was no assessment of hormone levels or anything of that nature. That's
Correct.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. Well, here are in my opinion, and I would say in the opinion of probably somewhere on the order of 80% of Americans, and probably, as you said, Laurel, most folks residing in Maine. This is Kessa Benner and Briella Boudreaux, who I believe tied for second officially, but who should have tied for first in a fair and just environment. So, Laurel, again here, I don't want to seem like I'm slow to follow this, but we literally have a situation where a biological male, someone who was competing as a biological male as recently as last June, 8 months ago,
Correct.
declared that the individual now identified as a female, and with no oversight regulatory whatsoever from the state of Maine, whatever the bodies are that oversee athletics in the state, the individual was allowed to compete, win, and claim this state championship.
That is accurate. And that is the policy that Governor Mills is defending against President Trump. It is so extreme. It's an outlier even among other states that have similar policies. And it's an extreme position that Mainers don't support. Not only is she supporting this extreme policy, her stance could cost our state $250 million for Maine schools. And that is money that we need to provide education for Maine kids. So, it's a twofer as far as how this hits our state. And it seems that she's pretty dug in and that President Trump is going to have to take this all the way through the courts.
Is this in character for this governor? You have to bring me up to speed here. I'm not up on my Maine politics. Is she generally socially this extreme? Is this kind of what you've come to expect from this governor, or is this a surprise?
Yeah. Believe it or not, Governor Mills is actually one of the more moderate Democrats in the state house. And so we've got a pretty liberal contingent that supports very progressive policies. And she is towing the party line on this and digging in. That is the stance that I anticipate legislative Democrats will take. We have a Democrat majority in the House and in the Senate. And frankly, it's their fault that we have this policy with the Maine Principals Association, because they passed the law in Maine that you cannot discriminate based on gender identity. And that's what the MPA is quoting as the source of this conflict, which is, of course, in conflict with federal law and Title IX.
Well, you mentioned that you have a thick skin and that you're not that bothered by the I suppose vocal minority of folks who are coming out. You're being accused of bullying a minor, et cetera, et cetera. What's your reaction to that? It appears to me that you were just reporting facts from what I could see from your Facebook post and from your Twitter post. You were just stating what was happening, making people aware of it. How do you deal with the online vitriol?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't want attention, then don't participate in public sports publicly, and then step up on a podium and publicly accept an award that should be given to a girl.
Laurel, it happened again this weekend. The girls Nordic ski competition here. I believe that we have the tweet. Another boy has taken a girls' high school state podium spot, this time in Nordic skiing. Soren Stark Chessa placed third and fourth in the state championship, single-handedly earning enough points to secure Maine Coast Waldorf's third place women's team finish. This comes the same week that we've already seen Katie Spencer claim the state championship in pole vaulting. And another thing here as well, Laurel, as I understand it, that pole vault result actually cost the entire Freeport school the team state championship in track and field. So not only did it affect those two particular young women, it took away the rightful championship of an entire school as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, his 10 points made their team, the Greeley team, win the championship by 1 point. And so had he not jumped as a female, if he'd jumped as a boy, he would not have placed, first of all. And so his points would not have gone towards that win. And the other case you bring up, that young man has been participating as a girl in cross country for several years now, cleaning up. And what you may notice is our most liberal newspaper, Portland Press Herald, has no problem publishing name, photo, all of that publicly. What they don't like is public attention being brought to it in a negative way. But when 80% of the population does not support boys and girls sports, you have to expect some negative attention when that is brought to light.
Well, Laurel, I don't know who the most famous current Mainer is. I have to believe Stephen King is probably on the very short list. Stephen King tweeting, let's take a look at this. Stephen King tweeting, Governor Janet Mills to Trump, see you in court. Makes me proud to be a Maine man. Thank you, Governor, for standing up to the bully. Laurel, how incredulous are you that people actually feel that it's bullying to stand up for the rights of these girls to have an opportunity to have a fair competition? How twisted do folks like Stephen King have this narrative?
Yeah, it is completely twisted. A question that folks have asked me along the way is, why don't these girls just not participate? Why don't they just not take part? Because it's not fair. And my answer to that would be that the authorities in place, whether we're talking about Governor Mills or the legislature that passed this law, the Maine Principals Association, their school districts, all of these authorities are participating in this sham, and they're supporting boys and girls sports. If no one else is going to stand up for the girls, why would they? And so we have to speak up for Maine girls who are being absolutely treated unfairly. It is ludicrous that we're celebrating boys winning in girls sports after the incredible accomplishments that have been made in women's sports over the last number of decades. A woman couldn't even run in the Boston Marathon, 50 years ago? And now we're going to celebrate a boy winning the state championship?
Yeah, it's truly hard to believe the direction that we're at. And it would seem, as Trump alluded to the governor, it seems like it's ultimately not an optimal decision for her politically to take this side of a matter where, as you said, there is such a strong majority of Americans who see the common sense wisdom in what folks like you are saying. Laurel, what do you think happens next here? What should we be mindful of as this story develops, in your opinion?
Well, I look forward to watching this play out. I hope and I am sure that President Trump will stick to his guns and hold her accountable. And hopefully it's resolved quickly, because in the meantime, Maine girls are having to compete unfairly against boys, and we're looking at losing out on $250 million plus in funding for our schools, which we cannot afford to lose.
All right, Laurel, thank you so much for making some time to join us today. And thank you for bringing this to light so that everyone in this country can understand the issue at hand. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.